All right, well, good morning. My name's Trent, and we're going to switch it up this morning. I want to just kind of celebrate real quick. If you walked in and noticed it became a winter wonderland, doesn't look great, as Aaron said. Okay, no, yeah. But anyways, the reason I want to celebrate that is my girl Melissa Morgan. There it is, her husband Scott. And Melissa, yeah, give her a hand. She did great, didn't she? And the reason I'm telling you guys that is I came in yesterday morning. I was going to try to knock some stuff out. Knew I'd be by myself. So I don't know, it's like 8:30-ish, whatever. I think I'm by myself. All of a sudden I hear a little mouse in there scurrying around. And go in, and Mel, I call her Mel. Mel's in there getting everything ready. Well, it's like 11-something. I got to get out of here because of the game, which none of us are going to talk about that, but the game. And I'm like, hey, get you something, whatever. No, I'm good. I love doing this, which also made me say, glad it's you and not me, because I do not love that. But she was still here for I don't know how long to make this place look great. So I just want to honor her and all of you guys. So many of you do so much, so awesome, so thankful for you. And what a way to celebrate as we get into week 4, the final week of our series, You Good. Today we're going to talk about heartburn and headaches and how your head and your heart are tied together. And a lot of you may be struggling with some mental illness or mental issues. And like we've said every week, and I didn't say this in the first service, say it to you guys who are a little bit younger, get some help. Yeah, we're for all that. But I want to kind of maybe help you with some root issues. So a few months back, I have a son, daughter, both were seniors, graduated, now they're freshmen in college. And both of them chose to move out. So my son's in Georgetown, Kentucky, and he's staying in a dorm there. My daughter's in an apartment in Portsmouth. Long story short, my wife and I, about 2-3 weeks before August, kind of start talking and realize we knew it was coming, but it really kind of started to set in. We're going to be together a lot. Now, for me, that's good because my wife, is, attractive and all that. For her, it's not so good, kind of looking at me. But anyways, so we're like, okay, we got the plan. Well, one of the things we said was we're going to have more free time, not as many sports, all that. So let's work out. So we made the plan to go to Planet Fitness, and we go there every day. Long story short, as we talk about heart, here's what happened. We have a little old person workout that we do, go through our circuit, and then we get on the stair climber or Stairmaster or whatever it is. And we're on that, we're doing the steps, and just so you young people, if you're dating or you're newlyweds, just so you know how sad it gets when you get older, this is how you brag on each other. We're on the very first time she'd been on it with me, I'm like, set it to level 5 because we're studs. So we set it to 5, and I walk like this, right? And she looked over at me and she was like, you don't even put your hands on the rails? Not me, baby. I'm a wild man, right? So I'm just walking without that. But I know she put her hands on the rail, and it popped up her heart rate. And her heart rate was like, we've been going at it pretty good. Her heart rate was like 151. So in my mind, I'm like, now I've got a score I can beat. Like, heck, I'm grabbing that. So I grab it and start doing it. And if you're a medical in here, just hold your ears for a second. You want to know what my heart rate was? It's like 179. I was like, man, my heart must be beating out my chest. I didn't even know that. And some of you are like, that makes perfect sense. Look at her, look at you, right? Your heart rate should be 30 times higher. But the reason I'm telling you that is with our hearts, we can think our hearts are good. Same spiritually. We can think, no, I'm good inside. And you're actually not. I thought, we're probably at the same pace. And I look, I'm like, no, my heart is like beating way faster than hers. So as we kind of look at heart, Jesus talked about this. And Jesus said, really, everything kind of stems from the heart. And he said this in Matthew 15:18. He said, but the words you speak from the heart, that's what defiles or pollutes you. What he's saying is, hey, Thanksgiving, and we had a Thanksgiving, I see Matt in here. We did a Thanksgiving communion service Wednesday. Matt kind of talked about this verse, and they even hit James a little bit, which is what we're going to talk about here in just a second. But the reason I tell you that is Jesus is saying, most of us, we believe the lie. Have you ever got someone really, really worked up? If you want to find out what's in somebody, really stir them up. It's kind of like a glass of water. If you ever check your pool, you're like, oh, that looks clear. Then you go inside and swish it around. There's literally baby frogs and stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, it's filthy. I would not drink that. Same with our hearts. You stir people up. You ever get someone mad and all of a sudden they just blurt something out? You're like, ooh, where did that come from? Because here's the thing we do. We say this phrase. We say, literally, all of us, I can't believe I said that. According to Jesus, that's a lie. What Jesus would say all of us should say is, I can't believe I said that out loud, right? Because I've been thinking about it for a long time. You guys, those of you guys who are married, it says the first, those of you married, you know this, and my wife, all women are good, right? You can be talking about something, and they bring something up, and you're thinking, why did you bring that up? Or you bring something up, and they're like, why did you bring that up? Because you've actually had it in your heart for a long time. That's what Jesus is saying. From our hearts is where all of this comes from. So I want to give you a concept before we get into James 4, just so you kind of understand. We have to fix the source. If you want to fix any disease, you can take medication, you can cover it up, you can paint it, but you have to get to the source if you want to get better. A few years back, a good friend of ours who doesn't attend here was my nurse prac, so I went to see her. My wife was worried about my cholesterol, so I'm in there, and I take my cholesterol. This has been several years back. Take cholesterol, and she kind of sits down with me, and she's like, your numbers are really high. Your cholesterol is really high. Well, my wife's not in there with me, so I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of blowing it off, yeah, whatever. And she's like, no, I do this a lot. Your numbers are like crazy high. Well, I think she could tell I wasn't really feeling it, so she doubled down. She said, Trent, listen to me. I don't want you to be running one day and literally just drop over dead. And I looked her in the eyes and said, that's where you're wrong. I don't run, right? So it's like, got me. That was the best joke I've got today. So 4 of you liked it. We're doomed, all right? But it's true. That's what she's saying. She's like, you don't understand. Inside of you, things aren't as good as you think. That's what we want to kind of drive home today. Now, I'm going to get real sciencey for just a second because I want to do this final parallel. Then we're going to James 4. I read this stat. Most heart disease stroke deaths are preventable. However, cardiovascular disease remains the number one killer, most expensive disease costing nearly $1 billion. Why am I showing you that stat? I'm going to make an argument this morning that your spiritual heart is way more important, one, like, no, it's not, I think it is, but number two, I believe it's costing you way more, and I think it's preventable. So that's what I want to do today out of James 4. I want to give you some lies that we believe, some lies that when we take to heart actually are ruining our lives. They're costing us so much more than God ever intended. Romans 1:25 is just such a great verse. It says this, it says, they exchanged the truth about God for a lie. So what James is going to do is he's going to walk us through kind of internally the lies and the stuff that we believe. So what are the 4 kind of heart blockers? Okay, as we do the heart monitor today, what are the 4? The first one is this, it's guilt. Guilt. How does guilt lie to us? Again, we're going to be James 4. If you got a Bible, you can turn there. But guilt lies to us because it says, I have to fear others. Now think about this for a second. He says, what is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires that war within you? Some of you in this room are literally at war with yourself. And you know why? Because you are scared to death. People are going to find out something about you. They're going to believe something that's, that could ruin your reputation. So you live in this fake world. You live constantly in fear of others. Jesus talked about that a lot. He called it the fear of man. He's like, literally, the fear of man will wreck you. Well, what's the fear of man for us in modern day? It's me. Well, I would never want them to find that out about me. Why? Well, they think I'm a horrible person. I hope no one ever finds out that I did this. Right? It's this guilt that I'm scared of people. I fear what you think of me. So when we fear others, you know what we do? Put on a mask. We wear the costume. We play the game. And none of us in this room can ever be honest. That's why we talk about groups all the time. It's good to be in a group. You know why? You need people who know you, who see you. I'm in a small group, been in it for years, and one of the ladies there, I love her to death. She always, I'll say something, she's like, that's not true. That's not true about you, right? And I kind of laugh, but it's good. Because she's calling me out. She's like, that's not true. That's what we need in our life. We need people who can say, I love you too much, literally, to just let you stay in this. That's not true. But it's the guilt game. What's the guilt game? Well, if they really found out the real me, then they wouldn't love me. And we do this with religion too. We play the guilt game. We think that God, well, who's God? God's someone who's looking like, do more, be better, try harder. You know what the problem with all that is? It's all based on me. That's not the gospel. The gospel is God says, you know what? I am perfect. None of you are. So it should be game over, right? That's bad news. You know what the gospel is? God's like, no. But my son, he did it for all of us. He literally did what none of us in this room could do. That's the good news. So even with God, God's like, no, you're good. In Christ, you're good with me. I know, but I just need, no, you don't get it. You're good. That's the good news of the gospel. And we see that. What's causing this fight? Some of us in here, because we fear and we have the wrong image of ourselves and of God. So guilt. I have to fear others. Anger is number 2. For some of you in here, this is so bad because what's anger say? Anger, the lie says, I have to be in control. Now, I was talking with my wife and my son and his girlfriend last night, and I said, anger is about control. And they're like, no, it's not. And they'd just been worked up because my son and his girlfriend were going to McDonald's in Ironton, and they were getting ready to pull in. And she was just telling me the story, and she probably didn't get permission, doesn't matter. So getting ready to pull in, and he said, another car, you're waiting in this long line, but you can't go because you don't block traffic. A car came from the other side and just took the spot. And here's why I'm telling you that, because when you talk about it, like, well, that's not control. I'm mad because someone wronged me. What's being wronged mean? It means they did something to me that I wouldn't have done to them. Okay. What else does it mean? It means they did something I didn't want them to do. Okay, what's that mean? It means I'm not in control of what people are doing. Exactly. You see, fear is ultimately, or anger is ultimately me getting mad because, like, you shouldn't have done that. Now, a lot of you have real sick issues. You had really horrible things that have been done to you. I could tell you one person's story who was in the first service that if I literally told her story, every one of you, men included, would literally be weeping. It's the most horrible story ever. Horrific. I get it. But what happens? We're mad because we're like, I want things to always go my way. I'm mad at them because they're not doing it my way. That's the whole thing. It's with control. Look what he says in verse 2. He says, you want what you don't have. You're not in control. So you scheme and kill to get it. I hate to burst your bubble this morning. But do you know this? None of you in this room are in control of pretty much anything. Oh, no, I am, Trent. I'm the head honcho. Okay, I get it. You are. But let me ask you this. What can you truly control? Better question. What can you guarantee tomorrow morning you can do? Can you guarantee you're alive tomorrow morning? No. Even the biggest thing in the world, none of us can even guarantee. It's an illusion. You're not in control. Neither am I. There's good news to that with God. And I was thinking about this whole anger thing, and this is why I want you to hear this, is you want to be in control, and you fight so hard that you know what happens? Anger starts to control you. You become angry and bitter. There was a person that a few years back, something happened, involved my family, and it was bad. It wasn't good. And you guys know, if you're parents, you know with kids, it's way worse. It's way worse than even someone doing something ever to you, even your spouse, which is hard. But to a kid, it's like, this is bad. So kind of worked up, and then I remember I was just like, no, God, I'm probably building too much into this. And then someone showed me a text, and then someone else. So I was like, man, okay, some stuff's going on here. And it really kind of got me. So what happened, and this is where I'm so sick with my anger, let me tell you guys what I did. So what I did, because I'm a pastor and I'm way more spiritual than anyone in this room, I would lay in bed every night and plot how to destroy this human. If I share this, that will ruin their reputation. If I do this, well, that would kill, this could mess up their family. Think how sick that is. And I'm just playing the game. And one day I'm driving to meet a group of guys in Willersburg. I was listening to a podcast, I don't remember what it was, and I kind of drifted off. And I remember I just prayed to myself in my head to God and said, you destroy him. I said those words. And instantly I was like, what's wrong with me? I really want someone to be destroyed. So even in my mind, I was like, that's not good. You can't pray that prayer. So I take it back. I'm like, no, God, how about this? Just give this group what they deserve. That sounds spiritual, right? I mean, when we're angry, don't we ultimately just all want that? We just want them to get what they deserve. And I felt good about that. That was my prayer. I'm driving 78 miles an hour on 52. I'm feeling good. Just give them what they deserve. I promise you guys, it was like a moment, just weird. Hardly ever happened to me. In my head, I just almost heard this voice that said, do you want what you deserve? Do you want me to pay you for everything you deserve? No, I don't. Well, God has a funny sense of humor because he put me with this group of people where I had to sit for like an hour and a half. And I can tell you guys, and I mean this, I didn't want them destroyed. I actually felt grace towards them and their own family. Why? Why am I saying that? Because that's what anger does. It controls us. What's the third one? This is the one I struggle with the most. Jealousy. What's jealousy ultimately saying? Jealousy is saying, God, I don't feel like you gave me what you gave somebody else. And what I have to constantly do is just prove myself all the time. Look what he says in the second part of verse 2. He says, you're jealous of what others have, but you can't get it. So you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Jealousy. You actually literally start aiming and hoping people fail because you're jealous of them. Now, some of you are shaking your head right now. I would never do that. Any Little League parents in here? Then you did it. You're sitting there like, well, they don't play my boy, and he's the best on the team. Just ask my grandma, right? Yeah, because no one's biased. I literally got a text my wife was showing me about our boy, and it was about being a quarterback, and this person was like, he throws a great ball. I'm like, Jonda, they're family, right? We all say that. As grandparents, like, this is the best player I've ever seen in my life. But you know how I know how sick jealousy be? Because none of you would ever say this out loud. But you sit and watch another kid, and you're like, I mean, I don't want him to fail. I just don't want him to be great. What are we doing? We're literally comparing. I do this all the time. I meet people, and I just start scanning all their great qualities so I can try to compare myself so I can beat them. That's how sick I am. Right? But that's the whole thing. We're constantly trying to prove ourselves. You're jealous of what others have. And then the last one is greed. And greed, this lie says, I have to get more. To be complete in life, I have to fear others and never tell them who I truly am. To be really happy in life, I need to be in control of every situation. To be really happy in life, I have to prove myself every single day. And to be really, really happy, I have to keep getting more because this isn't enough. Look at what it says in 2-3. It says you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. But even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. And you only want what will give you pleasure. Now, if you're a parent and you've had little kids, some of you still are in that age with little kids, you know the worst time is what? When you go through the grocery store and they're sitting in the buggy and you get in the checkout line. Stores are so genius, aren't they? Because they lose their mind. And what if you said, I'm going to be a good parent. Look at me, little Billy. You take everything you want. You start throwing candy. Why don't you do that? It's not because you can't. It's because it's not good for them. God's like, sometimes I don't give you what you want because it's not good for you. It's literally not good for you to have this. Why? You're only wanting what benefits you. But it ultimately won't benefit you. It's not going to give you the pleasure that you think it is. When I count other people's blessings, I lose sight of my own. And you do too. When I literally start counting your blessings and I start comparing and I start literally thinking I need more, then what happens is I lose sight of all the amazing things God has blessed me with. So James kind of closes it out. He says in verse 6, he says, he gives grace generously. As the scriptures say, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves before God. Resist the devil, can't read, and he will flee from you. We have 6 core values when you walk in. If you walk on this side, you'll see the second one. You know what it says? It says we take God really serious, and we do. I know some of you, if you're more traditional, you're like, I don't like what people wear. I don't like the music. I've heard them all. I get it. And that's fine. We all have our taste. But here's what I would argue. We never, ever, we take God really serious, but we don't take ourselves serious. And part of that is built into me from a long time ago. Like, I don't want to be this person, oh, you don't understand how spiritual I am. That's not what God said. No. He says, I give grace to the humble, not the proud. I give grace to the people who realize. Go through the New Testament. Do this for me. Read stories of Jesus. Next time you're doing it, blow your mind. Every time you read a story of Jesus, think about how he interacts with someone who's pretty arrogant about even being spiritual. Well, Jesus, I'm a Pharisee. You don't understand. I tithe. I do this. You know what he does? He tears them apart. But you know what? He can be talking to a woman who's been married 5 times and she's shacking up with a guy. He can literally be talking to someone who was caught in the act of adultery. And what's he do? He shows grace because they're humble. That's why it's a core value to us. We take God really serious. We just don't take ourselves serious because that's one way for us to realize it's not about us anyways. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about what Jesus has done for us. So here's kind of the whole theme of the message, okay? You live out what you believe in, even if it's not true. You and I both will live out whatever we truly believe in, even if it's a lie. So I want to give you today what I call, if you're here for Epic Life, you know one of the weeks we talk about the temptation tool. If you're not, I'll catch you up real quick. This is one of my favorite tools of all the Epic Life because I think it helps me realize my struggles, my problems, all these go back to the original temptation from Jesus. So what are the 4 G's? Okay, this is the good news that I filter almost every issue in my life through. I start thinking, why am I worked up about this? Why can't I control this? Okay, and this answers all 4 of those. Think about it. God is glorious. Well, you know what, Trent? I just have this guilt, and I'm ashamed, and I'm scared if I actually told someone what they would think about me. Guilt says, no, God's so glorious. We fear him. We don't have to fear others. That's good news. You don't have to fear anyone else. Jesus said that. What do you fear him for? He can't do anything to you. I'm literally the one that you fear because of that. Now look at the bottom left. God is great, so I don't need to be in control. God is in control of everything. He's doing it his way and his timeline and his plan. And you know what? Because that's good news, I don't have to get angry because things aren't working out the way I want them to. I can do this. You know what the good news is? God's in control, so I don't have to be. What we talked about jealousy, right? God is gracious. God already approves of me, so I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to walk in every day and prove myself to a group of people. I'm already approved. Think about kids in the toughest age, like junior high, middle school through high school. Think if they really could just grasp this. You don't have to do a ton of stuff, so worried, well, what do they think about me? You're like, no, I'm good with this. I'm good. And then the last one, we talk about always wanting more. Greed, right? God's good. He provides everything I'll ever need. Now, here's the thing. I'm a type A person now. Anyone else type A? Even know what it means? Doesn't matter. If you're type A, here's what you say. You hear all that and you lose your mind. You're like, okay, Trent, here we go with the hippie Christianity nonsense, right? We're all going to sit around and smoke. They passed issue 2. I guess we're allowed to do that now. We're going to do our thing. Just be free. My wife lives like that. Just be free, man. She is. I'm not like that. I'm not even telling you that. I'm telling you at your heart level, when you really get honest with yourself, you're like, you know what? Who am I trying to prove this for? Let's say there's somebody you need to forgive. Can I ask you a question today? Some of you have a forgiveness issue. I want to ask you a truly heartfelt question. How long? How long are you going to let someone else that you don't even like run your life? How long? How long are you going to let someone that may not even be alive anymore get to control your life? How long? It's not worth it. That's why it's good news. Sure, I'm just freaking out because I'm not in control. You're not, and neither am I. We can just trust God. That's the good news of the 4 G's of God. Jesus said this. He said, then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So what I want to do, real quick, is I want to give you some heart habits, okay? And before I do, I want to share just a real quick story with you guys. We have a group that comes in every week. We have a group that comes in Tuesday, some different volunteers, awesome. And then Thursday, we have probably our largest group come in, do a few different things. They help us with outreach, plan stuff. Awesome, love the people. What we try to do, if some of them have time, is we go eat lunch together. Well, it's been several months back. We're getting ready to go eat lunch, and Cassie, she's in this service. Cassie and her husband, amazing people, Matt, help us with groups, help us with what they do so much. Outreach, amazing people. Well, they have 3 boys, and the oldest is Logan. They're all like blonde hair, blue eye, like literally. Logan, then you have Lennox, I think, then Lyndon. Well, because I don't know who's who half the time, I started just giving them nicknames. And I called the little one, Little Uncle Baby Billy. Some of you get that. I called him Little Uncle Baby Billy. So that's his name. And I started noticing, I was really getting excited about this. I would literally say, hey, Little Uncle Baby Billy, and he would turn. And I could tell his mom probably was getting upset, like, I think you're changing his name, right? Hey, Billy. And then he started calling me Billy. It's awesome, awesome. Well, anyways, we're at Slim Chickens one day. And we're walking in, and Cassie's trying to order, and she's trying to get food for the kids. And I think it was kind of one of those, like, you're an adult, you're doing nothing. You watch the little one. I was kind of responsible for him. My wife was there as well. And I'm like, sure, I will. Well, I start talking to people, I'm not paying attention. And all of a sudden, Slim Chickens in Ashland, if you've ever been there, they have, like, the DoorDash section, right? And the DoorDash section where they put all the food, he and I think his brother, whoever, they're climbing, messing around, and you just hear this loud crash. Huge crash. And I look over, and the whole shelf, like, fell down and created this really tight slither of a triangle, and he was stuck in there, right? Like, don't worry, little Uncle Baby Billy, I'll save you. So I go to grab the top shelf to move it, and I look at his mom, I'm like, it's stuck. I mean, stuck like maybe a chainsaw needs to cut this out. So I can look, and he's starting to yell and I'm like, be calm, nothing's bad. I'm like, it's bad. It's really bad, right? I think he's going to have to live here. We'll come visit him. We'll feed him, like a little animal, right? So we're kind of freaking out. And here's why I tell you that. Some of you in this room know you're stuck right now. Might be a blessing. Because some of you in this room don't know you're stuck. You don't realize, like me, you have some blockage and some issues in your heart that if you don't get it checked out and you don't kind of come up with a plan, it may literally ruin you. It may ruin your marriage. It may ruin relationships. It may ruin you at your job because you've got this heart issue. So what are some habits? Takes a habit to break a habit. You know that? So I'll give you just a few habits, and we'll go, I promise. If you want to free your heart from guilt, you know what you do? You confess. Learn to become someone who constantly not only confesses to God, like, God, I know I'm good, but, I just want to keep this conversation. Like, my wife and I are married no matter what. You get that? But if I do something really wrong, sometimes I go to her, and it's not even like I'm just trying to, get right, or we're trying to stay married. Maybe a little of that, but ultimately it's like, no, I love her, and I feel bad. So I just want to be clear about that, hey, and then you do that. But what I'm talking about is confession with people. You need to have a group of people where you can say, I'm struggling. Or you know what, I said this, I did this, I shouldn't have. You need people who you trust. Don't put it on Facebook, don't social media this, but you got to have a close group of people that you can confess. That's how we rid ourselves of guilt. Learn to be someone who can confess. The Bible talks about confessing to one another, so you find freedom. You bring things to the light. Because all these heart issues aren't good once they get exposed. So what do we do for anger? To remove your anger, you have to forgive. I don't want to. Neither do I. I hate that. I agree. But how long are you going to keep that anger lodged in your heart? And that person may not even know or care. So we learn to forgive. Jesus had a pretty bold claim. He said, I want you to forgive as I've forgiven you. Isn't that tough? But then he's like, I'll double down for you. I also want to live in you and empower you to do that. You don't have to do it on your own. How do you rid yourself of jealousy? This is one I have to work on all the time. Celebrate. I have to make a conscious effort to celebrate people that I know deep down I'm kind of jealous of. I celebrate them publicly, privately, to them, sometimes one-on-one. Why? Because it helps me realize in my heart, no, I'm not trying to prove or compare or compete. And then the last one, to eliminate greed, you've got to give. Be generous. Some of you in here are naturally very generous, maybe with your money, your time, whatever. But some of us in here, if we're honest, we're like, no, I need more because I don't have enough. And you get in this mindset where you become even more greedy. So we have to learn to give and be generous. The value of a life is always measured by how much it's given away. So before we pray, I want to share just a quick story with you. And I'm Thanksgiving with my family this past Thursday. We're in the basement of a church in Wortland, Kentucky. It's typically where we go. And so we're in this basement. I'm hanging out. Family's there, extended family, good time. Everybody's having a good time, eating, fun Thanksgiving. Well, I'm sitting at a table with my little brother, and he's a knucklehead. And he's telling me some really crazy stuff. I can't repeat any of this. But in the middle of that, I'm telling him my wife's just switched jobs, and she's in the country now teaching. She's been at Ironton for years. And I said, we have conversations now about how there's city poor and there's country poor. And I'm not comparing the two because they're both really rough, but man, country poor, some of these situations, you're like, man, that is tough on these kids. She'll tell me stories sometimes at home. I'm like, man, that is horrible. So I'm talking to him, and he said, yeah. And he made this comment, something cool that I will give him, not him, he doesn't do it, his wife does it. But I know many times they would will be doing generous things for people. They'll be giving out gift cards. It's like, again, she is. I quit saying they, it's her. But awesome people. She's an amazing person. Awesome. But he's telling a story, and he's not even flexing. He really just kind of passing. He's like, yeah, we know this family, and we were going to bring stuff, because they had a baby and like diapers and stuff. But he starts telling me about the way this person lives. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, it's literally like a shack. I mean, picture as bad as they have, it's so tough out there. But he said they also have tents. So I guess the women and grandparents all can sleep inside, but they're literally have to put part of their family in 4 or 5 tents around this place. And as he's telling me this story, you're like, oh my gosh, man, it's heartbreaking. Maybe some of you live like that. It's like heartbreaking. But you know what he said? And he didn't even mean to. He's just telling me a story. But he kind of paused and he's like, but man, they're actually happy. And the reason I want to close with that is because it was really profound when he said it, because he didn't even think about it. But I thought, there's the secret to all of this. Trent, I'll get happy as long as I can keep putting on my fake self and be somebody I'm not, so everybody, can like me and think I'm great. That won't make you happy. No, Trent, you don't understand. As long as I can control the situation, as long as I get everything that I want always, I'll be happy. You won't, because it's never going to happen. No, Trent, as long as I just keep trying harder and prove myself more and more, because maybe it was a parent who didn't approve, or maybe it's a sibling, I don't know. But as long as I just keep doing more. No. Trent, if we can just get a little more, if we can just have a bigger house, car, name it, whatever the thing is. No. See, what he said was genius. He was basically saying, here's a family that has none of the stuff all of us chase. But I got back in my car and thought, but they're happy. Probably because their hearts are clear. When our hearts are clear, everything changes. So this morning, here's why I want to pray. If you would just understand, we're just going to close our eyes for just a second. If you would just join me. I want to pray for our hearts. Not our outer behavior. This isn't behavior modification. This isn't be better. This isn't do more. This isn't try harder. That's not the good news. The good news for us today is that Jesus said, I've already done it for you. Any debts you had, I paid them. You don't have to keep trying harder. Actually, the greatest life you're going to live is when you surrender to me and allow me to live through you. So I can extend that same grace to others. That's really living. That's how we find happiness. So this morning, I want to pray. I want to pray for some of you who have so much guilt built up right now. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's with a person that you really need to go seek and ask for forgiveness. Maybe it's with God because you feel like you're unforgivable. I want to pray for some of you who are so angry right now because you've been wronged. And it's a horrible thing that happened to you. But you can't control it. And you can't control how they react. Some of you in this room right now literally are struggling because you are constantly comparing what you achieve, what you do, to everyone around you. And God says, no. You've already been approved by me, the most important person. Last but not least, some of you just keep thinking, if I just get a little more of this thing, man, we'd be happy. But you wouldn't be. Because only God truly can satisfy us at our deepest need and level. So if that's you, no one looking around, if you're watching online, man, we pray you, if you would just reach out to us. But right now, I'll ask you if you do something kind of somber. If you would just lift your hand and say, Trent, could you pray for me? I've got some issues. That's you, just hand in the air. I just want to pray for you this morning. I could be a way to pray for you. Thanks. Anybody else? Just want to pray for you this morning. Thank you. Thanks. God, I pray today that your truth and your good news would free some of us in this room, some of us watching online, from the lies of the enemy. I pray you'd help us to realize that it's the stuff inside of us, the junk, that might be messing up so many things. It might be getting into our headspace. We might have a headache that originally was caused from our heartburn. So this morning, I just pray for those who raised their hand. I pray for people who didn't raise their hand, but they're hurting. They're struggling. I pray we'd be reminded today as we walk out these doors of the good news of the gospel. That's exactly what it means, that you paid our debt. But not only that, you say, now I want to live in you. I want to work through you. I want to do things that us in this room could never imagine. So God, my prayer today, before we leave, is God, I pray you use everyone in this room to maximize the gifts you've given them. Use them, how you've wired them, how you've created them, to make a difference, to love and live like you do. And I pray today that we hopefully could walk out of these doors a little lighter and a little freer because of that good news. We ask these things in your Son's name, and amen. Guys, have an amazing week. We're kicking off a new series next week. Best Christmas ever. We'll see you then. Take care.